Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini, by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 13. The Wise Person or Jnani is dearest to the Lord. This entire universe is Adheya and Paramatma is the Adhara. People ignore the Adhara and crave for the Adheya. They do not stop to inquire how the Adheya can exist without the Adhara. This too is an example of Drishti Dosham or erroneous perception. When this Drishti Dosham is set right, Srishti Karta or the creator of this creation can be realized. This subject was once raised by Arjuna before Krishna. He asked, "What exactly is Drishti Dosham? Please tell me in detail, O Krishna." He also sought to know the root cause of this erroneous perception. Now, Arjuna is not just an ordinary individual. He is not a Viveka Shunya, one who lacks discrimination to nod his head whatever is told to him. He is bold enough to stop Krishna in the middle of a sentence if he feels a doubt rising in his mind. He was a Dhairyashali or courageous and Gunashali, virtuous just like any other ordinary person. He persisted until he got from Lord Krishna an answer that was verifiable by experience, and that was in accordance with the wisdom enshrined in the Shastras or scriptures. And the Lord too provided the answers immediately with a smile. For this question too on Drishti Dosham and how it originates, Krishna answered thus, "Listen, Arjuna, between this universe and me there exists a Bhranti or delusion called Maya. It is indeed a hard task for man to overcome Maya, for Maya too is mine. It is of the same substance. You cannot deem to separate from me. It is my creation and under my control. It will turn in a trice even the mightiest among men head over heels." Even you might wonder why it is so difficult to overcome. Of course, it is difficult. You have easily conquered Vayu, the vital breath, but you cannot conquer Maya. It is by no means an easy job to conquer Maya. Only those who are wholeheartedly surrendered to me can conquer this. My Maya, Arjuna, do not take Maya to mean some ugly thing that has descended from somewhere else. It is an attribute of the mind that makes you ignore the true and the eternal Paramatma and value instead the manifold multiplicity of names and forms associated with attributes and functions. It causes the mistake of believing the body as the self instead of the embodied Atma. Maya is not something that was and will disappear, nor is it something that was not, but later came in and is. It never was or is or will be. But this non-existent Maya appears to be. It appears like the mirage in the desert, a sheet of water that never was or is. He who knows the Satya or truth does not get attracted to it. Only those ignorant are drawn by it. They run towards it and suffer grief, exhaustion and despair. Like darkness arising in the room, pervading the room itself, like moss growing on the water, spreading the water itself, like cataract growing in the eye, hiding the vision itself, Maya too attaches itself to whoever helps it to grow. It overpowers the three gunas and the three murti, that is to say, all who identify themselves with the limited, the named, the formed, the individualized are affected by it. Those with Jiva Bhranti or identification with Jiva are deluded by it. Those with Tattva Drishti or perception or experience of the truth or reality transcend it. It hides the tattvam or the reality. It does not hold sway over those who have once known the tattvam, the realized beings. Arjuna, you might ask me whether this Maya, which pervades the very place where it originates, has not tarnished me, where it has taken birth. It is natural that such a doubt should arise, but that is not favorable in this context. Maya is the material cause of all this Jagat or creation, but it is not the cause of the one who governs everything, that is Sarveshwara. I am the authority that yields Maya. This Jagat is covered or concealed by Maya, and it moves and behaves according to my will. So, whoever is surrendered to me and acts according to my will cannot be overpowered by Maya. Maya acknowledges their authority also. To overcome Maya, the only method is to acquire Paramatma Jnanam, the knowledge of all-pervasive Godhead, for you attribute prana dharma, the limit of life force, on Paramatma, and it is this which causes Maya. Sukham joy and dukham grief are manodharmas or characteristics of the mind. Janma, birth and marana, death, are deha dharmas, that is the characteristics of the body. Akali, hunger and dapika, thirst, are prana dharmas, characteristics of the life force. They are all anatma dharma, characteristics of non-self. They are not atma dharmas, the characteristics of the true self or atma. Maya means superimposing anatma dharmas on the true self, atma. But remember, Maya dare not approach anyone who has taken refuge in me. For those who fix their attention on Maya, it operates as a vast oceanic obstacle. But for those who fix their attention on God, that Maya itself will present as Madhava or God. The obstacle of Maya can be crossed either by experiencing Bhagavadayaka Bhavam, the experience of oneness and the infinite God, or through Sharanagati or complete surrender to the Lord. The first is called Jnana Marga, the second is named Bhakti Margam. Ordinary men do not get the inner promptings to conquer Maya by surrendering their all to the Lord. It all depends on the merit or demerit accumulated during many births. Those who have only demerit as their earnings will pursue the fleeting pleasures of the senses. Like the birds and the beasts, they revel in food and frolic. They take this as the purpose of life. They do not entertain any Deva Bhavam or thoughts of God. They dislike Satsangam, the company of the virtuous and the good. They stray away from Sadachara, good practices as prescribed in scriptures. Thus they become outlaws from the realm of God. On the other hand, those who have earned merit strive to grow in virtue, in uplifting thoughts, in the contemplation of the Divine Presence, and they yearn for the Lord. Seekers such as these may be drawn to the Lord through suffering, that is, Artha Bhaktas or want, Artharthi Bhaktas or the thirst for knowledge or the keenness to acquire wisdom. But the fact that they turn towards the Lord is because of the merits accumulated through many births. Blessed are those who continue to keep earning merits in their current birth too by adhering to those samskaras. However, the Gita does not approve sakama karmas, acts done with intention to benefit therefrom or with the result as the prime motive. It is only nishkama karma, acts done without being concerned with the benefit that may accrue, that will free you from delusion. Now, a doubt may arise about Arjuna, the one who turns to the Lord with sakama buddhi or intention to enjoy the fruits of action. The question may be raised, whether such a person can be called a bhakta or devotee according to the Gita. There is no single person on earth who is free from some want or the other. Each depends on someone or other to fulfill his wants, is it not? Now to have such korikalu or wants, Vishaya vasanas, that is wants relating to worldly objects, is itself wrong or dosham, and forgetting God to lean on a man like oneself to fulfill them is an even greater wrong. However, the bhakta turns not to man but to the Lord, whomever he trusts and reveres. He implores him only to fulfill them. Though it is wrong to cultivate wants, he avoids the greater wrong of putting trust on inferior instruments. So, comparatively, he is superior, is it not? The superiority of this attitude can be seen when you know that it is not what you want that is important, but whom you ask for its fulfillment. The goal is the Lord. He is the giver. His grace alone can confer boons. When this faith in the Lord is fixed, he can certainly be considered as a bhakta. Even he is the one with sakama buddhi. The first three of the four types of bhaktas mentioned in the Gita, the artha, the artharthi and the jignasu, all adore the Lord in an implicit form as paroksha, that is the indirect or remote out of direct sight. The Jnani, the fourth type of bhakta mentioned in the Gita, adores the Lord as Swatma Rupam, one's true self. Aparoksha, direct, experiential, unmeditated. Such a bhakta remains ever as Bhagwan Nishtha, the one who is attached to the Supreme Lord. The other types of bhaktas, the artha, the atharthi and jignasu, are attached to the objects or the states they desire, and for their sake utilize the Lord as a means to achieve them. They are devoted not merely to the Lord but to the objective world also. The Jnani has eka, one undivided bhakti, while the others have aneka, not one but many. Bhakti, the Jnani will not raise his eyes towards anything other than the Lord. Even if he does, wherever his eyes are cast, he perceives it as Lord alone. That is the reason why the Lord has declared that the Jnani is the dearest to him. Of course, all are the same for the Lord. But among those who have realized his presence within, the prema, love showered by him, is explicit, pratyaksha, immediate, directly cognizable and experienceable. Therefore, it can be inferred that the Jnani is nearest to the Lord and so the dearest. Of course, it is the nature of fire to warm you up when you shiver from cold. But how can it help you to keep warm if you do not approach it, but keep away at a distance? So, merely being distant from it and unable to feel its warmth, you cannot claim that fire lacks the ability to provide warmth. To combat the cold, one must approach the fire. Similarly, those who are earnest to remove the chillness of worldly ills have to seek the fire of jnana, which is won by the grace of God, and be in the constant immediacy of God. The sadhakas, due to their prayatana lopam or lacking of efforts, sometimes imagine God to be less glorious than he really is. They feel that the Lord differentiates between sinners and saints, good and bad, jnanis and agyanis, or the realized ones and the ignorants. These are unsound inferences. The Lord does not separate men thus. If he really did so, No sinner can survive his anger on earth and even a minute. All are living on the earth since the Lord has no such distinction. This Satya or truth is known only to the Jnani. Others are unaware of this. They grieve and suffer under the false belief that the Lord is somewhere far, far away from them. The Jnani is Mayatita, beyond or free from Maya. He is Gunaharita, free from the gunas, rajas, tamas or even sattva. The Jignasu, the seeker of knowledge, however, is different. He uses his time for unbroken contemplation of the divine in pious deeds and holy thoughts. And the other two, the Artharthi and the Artha, they gradually engage in Vishya Vicharana or inquiry into the reality and unreality of the objective world and transform themselves into Jignasus through sadhanas, that is spiritual disciplines, and Vishwasam, that is implicit faith. And later they become Jnanis and are saved. The goal is reached in this way, stage by stage. You cannot attain the goal in one leap. This can be better understood by means of an example. Jnana is like the through train. That is to say, the passenger need not detrain and enter another train to reach the destination. The Jignasu is like the through coach. He too need not to detrain and board another train to reach the destination, but the coach will be detached and attached to other train en route, and he reaches at last the place he wants to reach. The Artha and Artharati is like an ordinary train, and since it is neither through train nor through coach, it cannot reach the destination directly. The passengers in it have to alight at a number of places en route and wait until another train comes by so that they can reach the goal by stages. It is a long and arduous journey. But in spite of these difficulties, the goal can be reached by the Artha and the Artharati if they persist. So the goal is attained by all, only the process and the pace are different. No wonder the Lord has declared more than once that all these four types of bhaktas are my own. Why has he so declared? Because they all reach the very same goal. Therefore yearn always for the divine which yields immeasurable joy and bliss. Do not limit your desires to the little. They are misers who crave for little things. Those who yearn for the Lord are generous, large-hearted, said Lord Krishna. The bhakti or devotion of the Jnani is what is termed Sahaja Bhakti or natural, innate or direct devotion. The bhakti of the others can be called Guna Bhakti, devotion associated with any of the three gunas. The Jnani realizes the Lord as his own Atma. Bhakti means Anurikti, affection upon the Lord, Anuraga, attachment towards God. Pujyeshva Anurago Bhaktihi, Anuraga towards the revered is Bhakti, said Lord Krishna. The Jnani becomes so as a result of the merit accumulated through many lives. It is not a stage attainable on the spur of the moment, nor is it available ready-made in shops for a price. It is not a market commodity. It is the culmination of the spiritual endeavor practiced in many lives. It is desired that many good doctors must be produced by ministering to the people. But years of study and experience alone can supply them if those unequipped are appointed as doctors in the hospitals, and if they start prescribing and operating, they are bound to kill where they should cure. So too, if a person has become a Jnani or self-realized one, today you can imagine the lives and the lives of sadhana or spiritual discipline that won for him that height, the inheritance, janmantara, samsakaram, degree of refinement won through many births also helps to promote his endeavor. All kinds of people now name themselves as Gyanis. They do not know perhaps that a Gyani is marked out by certain characteristics, the steady assimilation of the experience that everything is Vasudeva. He is the true nature of the Gyani. By Vasudeva is meant here not merely the son of Vasudeva, but he who has made all beings his home, his nivasam or residence. It is only a person who perceives the Lord in all beings that deserves to be called a Gyani. Instead, if others name themselves as Gyanis, they are only namesake Gyanis. They have no genuine experience of Jnana. They are Gyanis. What exactly is that Jnana? It is the possession of that knowledge which enables you to have knowledge of all, and so enables you to dispense with the knowledge of all else. This is the height which the Gyani reaches. On the other hand, no one can claim to be a Gyani who has simply learnt a few shlokas or verses by heart or skipped through a few books as ascended platforms with 10 others and lectured for hours in the full pride of scholarship, reeling off some ponderous sentences learned from elders, vomiting out what has earlier been swallowed or collected Learn from elders, vomiting out what has earlier been swallowed or collected a bunch of disciples. We have large numbers of such self-styled Gyanis going about now. Their dress is ochre, but their hearts are ogre. Well, how can stones shine as gems? All stones are not precious gems. Who will assess a stone as equal to a gem? Only fools will be so misled, for they know neither the one nor the other. Sri Krishna declared, the king of mantras, Vasudeva Sarvam. Everything is Vasudeva in the Gita, just to counteract such pseudo-Gyanis whose emergence he anticipated that one mantra is sufficient to save all mankind. That is his Paroksha Prasadam, indirect gift. Consider it as such and concentrate on it and its meaning. That is the highest good. That is the highest goal. That 6-syllable Vasudevaha Sarvam mantra alone can make human lives worthwhile. Without the inner ever-present experience, there are many who have named themselves Mahatma, Jagat Guru, Bhagwan, Paramhamsa, Gyani, or the enlightened ones, Tyagi, Renunciate, Ananda, ever blissful, etc. And who, alas, though counterfeit, receive currency among people as genuine. No one conferred these titles on them. They were selected and assumed by their present owners and worn as plunged to catch the people's eye. They are not genuine, and so the glamour to wears out soon enough. The exterior form is of sannyasa, but the interior is atyasa. Outwardly, the form is yoga, but inwardly, they suffer from Vishya Roga, or the disease of worldliness. Their names all speak of Ananda, that is embodiment of joy, but they roam around in the alleys for worldly enjoyment. Their words are honey, their acts are spoony and often zany. A householder who is immersed in the daily duties of his stage of life is far better in spiritually than these dressed up specimens of Tyaga and Yoga. The chief reason for the decline of the culture of India, of its ancient way of life and its moral rectitude is this: the evil perpetrated by such fakes. Even faith in God has declined for the same reason. They advise Tyaga or renunciation and aspire for bhoga or luxury. They glorify niti or morality and operate through dvesha or hatred and asuya, envy. Such behavior cuts at the very root of sannyasa. They inevitably drag them to doom. When words and deeds are not coordinated, there is no trace of satya. Well, householders do hold on to the truth more or less tenaciously. There are among them many who are devoid of hate, of pure unsullied hearts, and who tread the path of morality and virtue. But we find that the Tyagis and Yogis who parade as such are full of all possible types of dvesha or hatred and all the manifestations of asalu or desires. They fall into the pit which these Jai Sai Ram
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ